Jeremy Rogers on Instagram doing a New England IPA under pressure for my first time using a new fermenter. This is the stuff that blows my mind because I never did pressure fermentations at home. And how is it that I stopped yawning when I started drinking water, but I was yawning while I was drinking coffee? Can we get to the bottom of this? We need some science. Maybe it took some time for the caffeine to kick in. Okay, I get it. Stop screaming at your screen. Pressure fermenting. Do you suggest having the spunding valve? And I will say spunding. I probably am dehydrated. Do you suggest having, and here's the other, I'm gonna, are you ready for a hot take? I hope you're ready for a hot take because I say spunding valve and September and June beat me to it. I will not say spoonding. Okay. Now I'm sure the appropriate way is to say spoonding. I also choose to say wort, not vert. There's vert coming out of the spunding valve. How many of those words can I stack up as once to make myself sound as ridiculous as possible? September, do you say spoonding? Am I opening up a wound here? I don't mean to. Robert Brown, bless your heart, becoming a brewer's apprentice. I very much appreciate that. You do not say spoonding. You know I'm calling you after this live stream. Just back to the question, you nerds. Do you suggest having the spunding valve all the way open for this first couple of days to get the yeast esters and then setting the spunding valve to 10 to 15 psi, or just set it to 10 to 15 from the start? So this is something that's fascinating, man. And you can understand why, you know, the classic old German brewers are spinning in their graves if they hear questions like this, because people in their graves typically tune in to the live stream. Yeah, so pressure fermentation serves some different purposes. Typically, when you are fermenting a beer under pressure, you are creating less esters. I think that's the kind of the bare bones simple concept behind it. There might be something more in depth going on behind that, but that's a good rule of thumb as a way of talking about it, understanding that. So what you would see is back in the day when I was volunteering at Arbor Brewing in Ann Arbor before I was brewing professionally, they had used some high pressure lager yeast, and so you could ferment it at like 68 degrees or something, but it was under 10 or 15 pounds of pressure. But the idea would be is even though you're at the higher temps, the higher pressure would push back the production of esters, right? So this is an interesting question because you're talking about doing pressure fermentation on a New England IPA, which you typically want to be expressive. All right. So Jeremy has an understanding of this because I thought this question was going one way and I was going to have to discuss it a different way, but he realizes. So he says, do you suggest having the spunding valve all the way open for the first couple days to get the yeast esters and then setting the spunding valve, or just putting it under pressure for the start? Yeah, I think you're right in saying, by and large, it's my understanding that the supermajority of esters are formed during growth phase for the yeast. So my guess is that you would not want them under pressure at that point. That said, you don't know how different yeast strains react to different scenarios, right? So if you're in a position where you can rep this beer out, I hate to keep giving this advice of just kind of saying, just try it. And that's not really what I'm saying, but it's like, it's not just try it, but it's like, you know, like experiment, you know, find out. Like, so if you can't make this beer a couple times, like that sounds good. Like you feel like drinking that beer enough or something like that, Try it out, man. Do it once like that and then run it back the other way under pressure. I think you're right. I think you will get less ester formation with the one that's under pressure consistently, with the one that's under pressure from the time you start. And I think that's a really savvy question and really interesting. I want one word of caution. I don't know what your system looks like, but one thing I would be concerned about is a lot of those like London 3 type strains that people are using for this. It throws up a really dense krausen, like a really yeast dense krausen. When that yeast blows off from me, it's like straight slurry on the floor. It's not like some other thinner krausens, right? Make sure that if you're going to ferment that under pressure, please give yourself enough headspace. I don't know, in the event that blows off, I don't know what your spunding type situation there. You don't want to clog that and just keep building pressure, potentially break something, blow something up, damage things. So just keep that in the back of your head when you're thinking about spunding with a really vigorous yeast like this, because remember, spunding was done traditionally on lagers, and you don't have krausen blowing out of the top of those boys, right? So anyways, that's just my take on that. All right, everybody, thank you so much for watching. If you feel as if you got any value out of the video, please like and subscribe. There are also other videos that you can watch. They're gonna maybe be over here or over here. Appreciate you watching.